we'll just head back over to Max 2 and continue to track there. There you can see that line of damaging winds moving into the metro area around Prospect. That bright spot still there around just northeast of Pekin, heading off to the southeast, as Brian mentioned, towards the Daisy Hill area. So we're going to probably see some power outages out of this. Not just because of the damaging winds, but also the frequent lightning that you have. There's different source there of the heavy rainfall, but do we have Storm Tracker 3D? Do we have that sourced and ready to go? Okay, here we go. Stand by. We'll have that. Here we go. This is right now at 440. We're getting a couple shear markers in there, some of that little bit of rotation every once in a while along that leading edge, but this is mostly a straight line wind deal that we have right now. So we're going to jump ahead to 5 a.m. to show you where this is heading. You can see the motion of that moving to the southeast, Taylorsville, you're going to be in the way of this, and also moving into Shelbyville. We'll continue this to about 5:30. You can see that motion continues to be off to the southeast, heading closer to Bardstown and Springfield by 5:30 this morning. And remember this at 5:30, this is where you're going to see this storm. And it's still over the metro area at this time. And this is at about 5:40. You can see all the way from I-64 to Lexington south to the Bluegrass Parkways where it's going to be hardest hit. Areas off to the west are going to stay much calmer. So you really haven't seen much over the last 24 hours around Litchfield and over towards Hardinsburg and Munfordville. And you continue to be on the drier side of this system. One more time here. This is future scan over the next hour. You can see that big, huge area of thunderstorms moving off to the southeast at about 50 to 55 miles per hour. Let's go back to Max 2, where meteorologist Brian Shaw is tracking the wind speeds. These are the winds that are going towards the radar, and we are getting some really bright spots. Blue indicates winds in excess of 60 miles per hour. So when it is, again, safe to do so, please send us a report of any damage that you might have around your area. You can send us, let us know about any power outages that you might have as well. You can tweet us those reports at WHS11. You can also send them right to me at WHS11Ben or at Brian Shaw at WX Shaw. And there is a look at our damaging wind threat. Brian, I think we're getting even a little bowing. In the center of a bow is where the air is rushing down from aloft, higher up in the atmosphere. So that is pushing out the line. So we're getting, when we get this bow, that is just a symptom, an indication that strong winds are pushing out that rainfall, and we get damaging winds, a high confidence of damaging winds right there. So this is around LaGrange, Crestwood. This is the southeastern section here of Oldham County. That's going to be pushing into your area, Shelbyville. So we want you guys to be in your place of shelter. You all have a severe thunderstorm warning here in this area here of the potential damaging winds. Anchorage, this is the Snyder, this is I-71. This is where we have some damaging winds coming down right now. This is moving to the southeast at around 50 to 55. This is going to be affecting all the traffic along Interstate 64 from Metro Louisville over to basically Frankfort. There you can see this is well organized. This was not as well organized just a half hour ago. The latest scans are showing those winds aloft are coming down, rushing to the ground. So we have the flash flood warnings for all this area, of course, as well. We also have the severe thunderstorm warnings. Brian, can we pop up the severe thunderstorm warnings once again?
Yeah, Ben, the reason I pulled this up is I'm sure a lot of people's phones just went off with the emergency alert system because we have this new flash flood warning that includes downtown Louisville and Louisville Metro until 7:45. That just came down. But here are our severe thunderstorm warnings, and it does look like they kind of closed the gap on that for where that Boeing area was.
Yeah, so you can see all the areas under that severe thunderstorm warning. So this goes into Shelby, Henry, eastern section of Metro Louisville, and then we have this other area of potentially damaging winds, especially western Clark County, and areas in the way of that is going to be Deem Lake and Sellersburg and Charlestown. So this is where we have that threat of some damaging winds. And then, of course, all these areas, as Brian's been mentioning here over the last hour or two, thank you, Brian, for tracking while I've been getting ready for the shows. This flash flooding, where we saw it on Sunday morning, where we had some yesterday, it's going to be another renewed threat here this morning. It's going to be a rough ride off to work this morning. We're going to have some road closures. We already have had some road closures where we've seen 4 to 5 inches of rainfall here around Madison. So we had to take time to cover each threat And right now we're talking about the flash flooding threat. And this is the rainfall amounts just over the last 3 hours. And we're going to continue to see some torrential rainfall. And the storms have so much energy and so much water in them that we are getting thousands upon thousands of lightning strikes with these water-loaded thunderstorms. And sometimes the water, there could be so much water sucked up in these storms at one time, it comes crashing down as a microburst, and we get damaging winds 70, 80, 90 miles per hour. The straight line winds can be just as bad as an EF0 or possibly an EF1 tornado. So you don't need a tornado to cause some really bad things to happen. And this is just covered up in lightning, thousands upon thousands of continuous, frequent cloud-to-ground lightning strikes. This is not in the cloud lightning. There's plenty of that too. This is cloud-to-ground lightning of 15,000 strikes here over the last 15 minutes to a half hour. And that's as bad as it gets as far as the lightning show right there. So it's hard to sleep. I mean, we've got thousands upon thousands of people that are certainly not sleeping and tuning in. And here's a look at the threat of damaging winds. It's now right up to Anchorage, and sometimes Anchorage, and this can be sometimes a couple minutes behind. So Simpsonville, those damaging winds may already be up to your area. Shelbyville, rushing into your area. We've got, he's clicking on these pixels on our Max HD radar, and it's showing us the wind speeds, 58 miles per hour. That's very close to the ground because this wind speed is very close to Fort Knox right there. So we're getting those wind speeds just above those treetops, not too far off the ground. So I guarantee you that we're going to have some reports of some damage out of that. So that is a good formation there. When you see some of that curvature, that gives us as meteorologists high confidence that that wind is coming to the ground. Here's that latest track on those severe winds heading to Fern Creek in about 10 minutes, Taylorsville 21 minutes, Lawrenceburg in 26, and Salvissa in about 36 minutes. So this is tracking over the eastern sections of Louisville, on the east end of Louisville, Fern Creek, J-Town, Douglas Hills, over to Shelbyville, all of Shelby County. You're under the gun for some of these severe winds. Thankfully, that last update, Brian, we're getting rid of some of those blues, so that's kind of good. We still have that spike, though, here in western Clark County. Let's go ahead and tight there and help out the folks there in western Clark County. This is along and north of Highway 60. So right now near Borden High School is where we have some of those bright spots right there. So there is Borden. This is right up Daisy Hill where we're getting, and these are higher elevations. These are about 800-900 foot hilltops. So the winds are going to be really strong up there in the hills, and where we have a lot of a farming community right there. So this is Borden over to Memphis, where we may have some of those damaging winds. This is tracking to the southeast at about 50 to 55 miles per hour. So on that track, that's going to be moving to the Sellersburg area and over towards possibly Charlestown too. Every once in a while they may shift a little bit east or west of that track right there. New Albany about 12 minutes, heading into Louisville with some of those damaging winds. That might even clip right downtown here. We'll watch that very closely in about 16 minutes. Fern Creek in 26. And Mount Washington a little bit later than that. So all this green right here, we spent a lot of time on the wind speeds because this is one of the 5 or so threats from these severe storms that are moving through. And Brian just shifted that a little bit to show you kind of that area that's still under that threat of some damaging winds. Oak Park about 14 minutes, Prospect 16, Fisherville in 30, and Whitfield in about 30 minutes. Now, Brian, can you put on the hail? That's one thing we haven't covered much just yet. Again, we still have the blues on there. Not quite as bad as what we saw earlier, but you were tracking some big hail earlier, right?
Yeah, definitely upwards of quarter-size hail. That seemed to have gone down to about penny size, but basically it's the same spots, Shelbyville, Taylorsville, Fern Creek area, that storm moved through. Then now that you have the threat of the wind. So earlier you had the threat of quarter-size hail, and basically what I've been doing is switching between the storm relative velocity and the base velocity here. So that's why we kind of have that little bit of a difference. But
this is storm relative velocity, so it kind of corrects with the radar and the motion of the atmosphere, basically. So this is still showing us those 60-mile-per-hour winds that are likely coming to the ground. That's Interstate 64 right there, and this is some bad stuff. This is over the eastern half of the metro area. So this is St. Matthews, right up to the Highlands almost, basically, and there's St. Matthews. This is where we're already experiencing those strong winds. High population, obviously, so I know you guys are awake. Please send us reports of what you're seeing there on the ground. If you're not experiencing that strong wind in these areas, send us a report of that as well. We want to know that too. The radar is not 100% all the time. We need that ground truth. Please send us those reports at WHS11 on Twitter. at WHAS11 Ben, or to Brian Shaw at WXSHAW at WX Shaw, and we'll retweet and share that. You can send them to Facebook as too. We're always monitoring our Facebook pages, and you can send those photos to your photos at WHAS11.com. One way we're going to know that this is causing some damage, power outages. So we're going to check on those power outages. We're going to ask the newsroom to give us an update and let us know in our ear of how many power outages there are currently. And every 15 minutes or so, give us that update of how many power outages we have so far. We're getting some isolated areas where we have some house fires because of all this lightning. And obviously that is one big threat that we have. That is an incredible amount of lightning. That is proof of how strong these storms are, how robust and potent these storms are with the thousands upon thousands of lightning strikes that we have. New severe thunderstorm warning goes until 5:20, and this includes Fern Creek, south to Mount Washington, Taylorsville, and much of Shelby County. So this is going into Spencer County now, as we expected. Remember, we showed you Future Scan just a little while ago. We said Taylorsville, Spencer County, you're going to be next. We'll go back to Future Scan in a little bit. It is one of the best pieces of technology that you'll only find here on WHAS 11 that looks 1 hour ahead to show you where the damaging winds and all those threats are heading. Hey, here's a look at some more right areas popping up here with our wind velocity. That's just our wind speeds here. This is wind traveling toward the radar. Okay, so that's a lot, 67 miles per hour. And this is some of the, Brian, I'd say this.
Of about 70 miles per hour.
Over the last 24 hours, this is one of the best lines that we've seen.
With this bow echoing segment and this straight line wind event, this is exactly what we had feared out of this.
Yeah, so this is Shelbyville to Louisville right now.
And it's bowing out on the velocities, but it's just a huge cluster of heavy rain.
It's a monster.
Intense lightning, just a huge storm.
So this is, we haven't talked about this for a little while. We're going to cycle through. There are so many. Again, 5 threats on the table, and one of them is the damaging winds. We've got the severe thunderstorm warnings with that. The flash flood warnings here. Flash flooding can cause much more expensive damage than some trees toppled over a lot of times, because a lot of basements are going to be flooding. We're going to maybe have some high water rescues. You can see how much rain is coming down. Go back to that radar representation of these storms, Brian. All that green again is the flash flood warnings we have until through sunrise areas, but we're seeing these deep colors of red. So we've got all this right here. Check this out. That's going to go like this over the eastern area over the next hour or so. And so this is the precipitation rate. That is really intense. I don't think MSD is going to be able to keep up with that on the east end of the metro area. We are going to have some problems here over the next 1 to 2 hours. Brian, come on. I mean, that's 4 or 5 inches per hour.
Yeah, that's incredible. So one of the spots that is an area of concern,
Oxmoor,
right,
St. Matthews.
over by the Oxmoor Mall area.
And that's where's the worst, right about there.
Yeah, and those are spots Sunday morning that got hit really hard. And other spots that we've been watching out for, luckily up towards Madison and Hanover, looks like you guys are all done.
Yeah,
but the damage has been done there, the extensive amounts of flooding. And then the other area of concern we've been talking about is Oldham County, Henry County, Clark County. This is what is falling now. What has fallen, just a minute here.
This is likely, this could put down 3, 4, 5 inches of rain here over the next 1 to 2 hours, and that's going to cause extensive flooding. They've already had their flooding over the last few hours here around Madison, over to Bedford. And we'll watch and see if we see any more rain there. Thankfully, back towards Madison now, the radar looks much clearer for you guys. So that's one threat that we've covered here, flash flooding. That's going to be a big deal here. Please do not cross those flooded roadways. We're talking about Beargrass Creek, Floyd's Fork, Cherokee Park, Seneca Park, those typical parks that see the flooding and end up getting closed down, or at least some roads closed down. That's what we're going to have, because this is some of the heaviest rain that we have seen, just very similar to Sunday morning, right, Brian? You were here Sunday morning and saw something that looked just about like that.
Sunday morning was a little bit longer. and hit the same areas. But that's been the concern. It's been the same areas over and over. This is round 3, basically since Sunday morning for those areas
flash
there.
Flooding, yeah. Let's go and box that out and check out that lightning over the last half hour, 15 minutes or so. And that's another threat. This is frequent continuous cloud-to-ground lightning. This lightning is coming down at 14,000 strikes here over the last half hour. And so if you're looking out your window, it's continuous. It does not stop. They're continuous flashes. We're having some amazing lightning shows around the area. And this is just one way that shows it is. This is just a lightning factory right here. This is heading into Bullitt County here. So the strong winds will be moving into your area. A rush of winds heading towards Taylorsville now. Severe thunderstorm warning continues here for Spencer County, northeastern Bullitt County. That includes Mount Washington. There's Bardstown Road. Here's the Snyder. Let's get a new look at the wind speeds. There's the leading edge of the torrential rainfall. There's our bowing out, getting, I would say, thicker as far as the damaging winds. So there's a broad area where we could have some damaging winds here, including St. Matthews, south of Fern Creek, J-Town. You're under that threat of some damaging winds. Okalona as well. Here's Outer Loop. And we've got all these areas here. Cooper Chapel Road, McNeely Lake area, Seatonville, Fisherville, off to Finchville. We're now into Shelby County, underneath some of those strong winds. Shelbyville on the edge of that. This is tracking down into Spencer County here on Max AC radar. Taylorsville, you're up next with that damaging wind threat. This is really bright. This indicates wind speeds over 60 miles per hour, hitting the ground, possibly 70 miles per hour. Brooks, 8 minutes. So that's the Brooks exit there, down 65. That's that pinpoint right there. Cox's Creek in 17 minutes, heading to your area. Bardstown 24. Springfield in 32 minutes. And let's go to our Morgan & Morgan HD camera network, where we can see downtown we're getting pounded pretty good by some of that heavy. Takes just a moment to switch our sources in the control room, but we'll head and take a live look outside as we look at these severe thunderstorms. I think we've got our view from the Review Restaurant and Lounge, and basically the visibilities are low. Basically blinding rain is what we have around the area at this time. And look at the flashes of lightning. I do suspect we're going to get a lot of power outages, especially the east end of Louisville into Shelby County, into Spencer County. And there you can see the continuous flashes of lightning through our Morgan & Morgan HD camera network here. And we're getting hit by a lot of this heavy rainfall here downtown. We are going to be taking a short break here in just a moment. We've got all the severe information at the bottom of your screen. We've got some crews out heading and checking out some of the damage. We're going to be checking out the flash flooding that we're going to be getting around the area. And we'll be continuing our storm team coverage here with our severe weather event around the area for your Tuesday morning. Again, this is round 2. We could see another round of severe storms late this afternoon to the early evening as well. Let's go ahead and go back to Max 2. Are we going to a break here shortly? Just tell me in my ear, our producer or control room. I'm sorry?
30 seconds.
Okay, in 30 seconds, we'll go to a break. Again, we'll have everything at the bottom of your. And here you can see the severe thunderstorm warnings to give you an overview that continue down into Taylorsville. You've got just a couple minutes here, Taylorsville, before the severe winds heading your way, and also Mount Washington. I think we'll probably see another warning here very shortly for Bardstown and areas off to the south towards Springfield and areas farther to the south. We'll continue to give these updates throughout Good Morning Kentuckiana. Stay with us. We will be right back with more storm team coverage.
Red, white, and blue.